Welcome back to the Spencer Tarot. Let's now take a look at the final suit, one of my favorites, the suit of Cups. Cups represents water element, and water represents emotions. So when we are dealing with the cup cards, we are dealing with how we handle our emotions and how we use emotions to bring forth the things we would like to have in our life. The cups also represent the zodiac signs of Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. And so let's look at my card for a second, and if you notice the card of the handsome blonde gentleman, and he is standing in front of this beautiful garden of fountains and waterfalls and life, and there's an emotional response to that, and that's being alive, is being able to experience deep emotions. And so let's get started now in looking at the cup cards 1 through 10. The first card is the Ace of Cups. By the way, in the modern deck, cups are hearts. And that should tell you a little bit right there. The Ace of Cups means you are emotionally balanced. When you draw this card, you are drawing on emotional balance and a great ability for self-love. And here's the deal. If you have self-love, you have the ability to love other people, the whole planet, and to love your passions, whatever they may be, to love your career, to love where you live. And it's also a person that's able to stay emotionally grounded in any situation. So when someone pulls this card, there might be chaotic things happening around them and things that seem scary, but it's saying you can draw on the ability to stay emotionally grounded in any situation. I'm going to teach you a secret to emotional balance, and that is the state of gratitude. When you are grateful for things in your life, and you are in optimism and thanksgiving instead of pessimism and victimhood and blame game, you're going to have wealth, you're going to have love, and you're going to have balanced emotions. If you happen to suffer from depression or anxiety, a great way to shift that quickly is by doing gratitude work. A simple gratitude thing you can do is when you wake up in the morning, have what's called a gratitude journal. And this is what you can do. In your journal, you write 10 things every day in the first thing in the morning that you're grateful for. And that can change what you attract to you. It could be simple things. If you don't know what to think of, it could just be like, I'm grateful for my coffee this morning. I'm grateful for a little quiet time. I'm grateful that the sun is out. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful that I have a car that works. And that might be where your consciousness is. And then as you go deeper into gratitude, you'll see your thoughts change. I'm grateful that I have $200,000 in the bank. I'm grateful that I own my own home. I'm grateful for my luxury car. I'm grateful that I own my own business. I'm grateful that I am in my 60s and I haven't had to take Western pharmaceutical in years. I'm grateful for my sex drive. I'm grateful for like-minded beings in my life. I'm grateful for my husband or for my wife. I'm grateful for my children. I am grateful for my extended family. I am grateful for my community. So there's many aspects of that. And the Ace of Cups is about absolute emotional balance. Emotional balance is a feeling of unconditional love and peace. And those should be the two emotions we focus the most on. If you are in a state of love and peace, your life works. If you're in a state of anger, worry, depression, anxiety, your life doesn't. It's a choice. Choose love and choose peace. Ace of Cups, emotional balance. The Two of Cups, deep love relationships. And usually when we pull this card, it means deep romantic love. So it can mean the manifestation of a partner, or it could represent issues surrounding marriage, or your romantic relationship. But deep love can also be your relationship to your passion, whatever that may be. So for me, my passion is my music, and my passion is drama and teaching acting, and my passion are my creative pursuits. My passion is my business that I do. My passion is the tarot. So we have many passions. And our job here is to look at the cards around the Two of Cups to figure out what is the main connection, to fully share and cultivate this deep love. So this means if you're in a romantic relationship, are you deepening as a couple? And here is a secret. You are God also. You are perfect and complete in yourself. If you are going into a relationship with another perfect divine soul, and your idea is we are coming together because we enhance each other's passions and what we want in each other's lives, and we grow from that, that's a great position to be going into a relationship. If you're going into a relationship of love with need, he completes me, she completes me, I need her to survive, I'm lost without her, I will die if I can't have her. If you're going from that point, that is codependency. That's toxicity, and your relationship will never work out. This is a deep lesson to truly learn. This is why the divorce rate in the world, and specifically in the US, is so high. It's so interesting that I'm like 56 years old, and I have friends that are already on their third and fourth marriage. I have people that I had friends that were married for 1 year, they divorced, and they're just moving on. They can't ever seem to find that deep connection, and that's because their attitude is, I need someone, I'm lonely, I need a partner, I need someone to to complete me. Or secretly, people don't say this, but I'm looking for a sugar daddy, I'm looking for a sugar mama. That happens quite a bit, where someone doesn't want to take responsibility for their own life, and they look for someone to take care of them, or their children. That's another aspect. And we have to look at this, like, what have you created if you are in a romantic relationship? And is it truly a deep love connection, or is it a relationship based on need or manipulation? Most of the world is in what we call sexual energy virus. And what that means is not just sex, but this energy feeding. A lot of people use sex to enslave others. And that's something that happens. And people confuse sexual desire with a relationship. And we need to look at that. Anybody that is draining your energy is an energy feeder. And a lot of times, relationships focus on that. And it's power games. You know, how many times have you seen someone, like, for example, an older man, who's got money and power, and a younger lady scared to be alone and wanting to be taken care of, and the woman is the Barbie trophy wife, and the woman is using her body and sex to get what she wants, and the man is using his money to enslave her. And it's just a codependency, and it can work both ways too. It could be like a younger man with an older woman. It could be guy, girl. It doesn't matter. These are energy games, and that is not deep love. Deep love is sharing from a place of I am God, or I am goddess also. I am a divine master, complete in myself. Then you're in a deep new energy type of relationship. And the world is changing right now, and there's no need to be in a relationship with someone out of energy feeding. Women are equals to men. And we have, women don't need a man to support them, and if you think that, that's pretty awful, It's there's a lot of sexism on the planet, and you don't need to buy into that crap. You're powerful. You can attract to you what you want. So therefore, allow for the right person to come into your life. Use discrimination, use your intellectual thinking to, learn, does this person balance out my needs? Is this person enhance my life? Or do they pull me down? The greatest love relationship you can have is actually with yourself. And sometimes people choose to be alone. It's interesting for me, after having, again, my soulmate in my 20s and having other relationships that were excellent, but after deaths of my partners and things, I actually love being alone and taking this time in my life to just love myself and not deal with other people's macchio drama. And yes, I am open for a new relationship. I do date, and I've had some interesting relationships over the last couple of years. Nothing super serious, but maybe that's where you are. Maybe you have been like, I need someone in my life, and that fear that you're placing on the universe, like, where is he? Where is she? Creates a toxicity that makes you miserable. And that is a choice. Don't allow that. Love yourself first and be complete in yourself, and then just allow for the partner you want to come in, and watch the universe make miracles for you. Now to my favorite card of the cups, abundance, the Three of Cups. And if you look at my beautiful card, we see my dream home, a beautiful Queen Anne Victorian mansion with fountain and just overgrown with lush, fragrant white roses. And that's my view of abundance, okay? And of course, also this deck is Gothic Victorian, so I use Victorian imagery. But your view of abundance might be different. Here's the deal. Three of Cups. It's abundance of not only wealth and the ability to not worry about money at all, that you're just manifesting what you need, but it's also an abundance of love, an abundance of harmony, and there's an abundance of harmony with either your family, or I like to use the word extended family, because your family is what you choose it to be. And some people sadly maybe are orphaned, or maybe they were shunned by their family, or not super close, or they've tried to be um, truthful with their family and unable to be. And we can create family from anyone that we choose. So it's harmony with what I would call your extended family and friends. And you're creating greater abundance through influential people that you've attached to that can enrich your life. So abundance comes from modeling abundance and nurturing your creativity and your gifts in life towards advancement and rewards. The smart person surrounds themselves with abundance. Something I remember that I've always done that a friend told me many years ago is that if you want abundance, even if you're not there yet, you live amongst abundance. And I can greatly appreciate and understand that. I remember after my partner died, my first apartment was in Costa Mesa, California, and it wasn't that I lived in a terrible place. The apartment was relatively nice, but it was just in sort of a toxic energy of people and things that were around there. I lived near an auto parts place, so there was always noise and smells of paint. I lived near some I'm just gonna say it, lower energy beings that created chaos and noise and friction. And I noticed that even though my apartment on the surface was nice, I wasn't around an environment of affluence, and I always was struggling. And I could just barely get by. I was in debt, and I didn't feel abundant. But as soon as I moved to an area of abundance, so I remember moving to, I just had an apartment, but I was living in Newport Beach around, $1 million mansions. And every day I was seeing BMWs and Jaguars and Mercedes Benz and people in gorgeous clothes. And I just kept saying, that's for me, and I live here. And all of a sudden, it transformed me to attract abundance to me. Interestingly enough, I had a partner who was a brilliant artist, and his name is Liam, and we met down in Laguna Beach. And neither of us at that time had a lot of money. I was coming out of a period of breaking up with my second husband. I was finishing up my double master, so I had student loan debt. I had car payments, things like that. And my partner had just moved out from the East Coast and was getting started as an artist and an interior designer and things. And I find it amazing when we came together what we manifested out of nothingness. And he is a brilliant person. And I remember he brought me into a group I belonged to called the Crimson Circle, a spiritual group of this idea that I am God also. And we were both part of that. And I remember, for example, like he would be doing interior design on a home, and all of a sudden we'd be spending a weekend in a $5 million mansion with a saltwater pool and a swim up to bar, and just manifesting these places to get away to when we didn't have a lot. And then when we did move in together, we manifested a beautiful place in Laguna Beach with we had this nice, artsy place that was on the ocean. We had, a private beach pretty much near us. And then when we moved to Long Beach here, where I live now, I moved into this we moved into this fourplex that is a block from the ocean in a historical building with over 1,000 square feet and a beautiful giant tub. And things I love, like the old-fashioned finishings, crystal doorknobs, things like that. And people said that was impossible. They said with your income that you're making, you're not going to find anything in that area of Long Beach. And we did. And to this day, I've been here now over 20 years in this place, which I love. And yes, rent has gone up, but I still pay under what other people pay in the area. And I manifest when things need to be done. I just manifest them. I was thinking the other day, I would just like the whole hallway to the building to be redone. And all of a sudden, my landlord's repainting and putting in new carpet, and everything gets done, It's very interesting. So when you feel abundant, you attract abundance. I remember one time when my car broke down. I had a beautiful Acura Legend, which was a magnificent car. It was very luxurious. But I was doing so much driving in my college years that I put on my car close to 400,000 miles, if you can believe it. And it finally just gave out. It was a great car. I had that car for 15 years, And I remember, oh my God, what am I going to do now? I don't have any money for a car. And I wanted a luxury car. I'm like, I am not settling for some, trashy little, mini car crap. I don't want some, just boring car. I want luxury. And I didn't know how I was going to make that happen. And I had a friend, and I told her exactly what I want. And she said, James, I found you this gorgeous Oldsmobile Alero with Italian leather seats and a Bose system and a tinted sunroof, gorgeous pearl white color, all this. And this car is a $50,000 car. And the guy needs to, run or move immediately to Europe, and he has to sell his car and get rid of it quickly. And he says he's asking $18,000, and that was still way over what I had, or that I could afford. And I just said, I want that car. Something's going to happen. And it was amazing. Miraculously, I think I got him down to $14,000 for this $54,000 car, and was able. My dad helped me out. There were some gifts from the universe, and I got my car. And that is this idea of abundance. No matter where you are, if you are counting your gratitude and blessings and believe that things are possible, watch the universe line things up. I can't tell you how many times I had a student that lost their job or was struggling, but has such a passion for drama or music, and they manifested the money they needed for a certification class. They manifested the money they needed for their website. They manifested the money they needed. I had a student that needed to go to New York for New York Fashion Week, had no income, and it just manifested. And all of a sudden, careers changed from that. So I know I'm talking a lot today on this card, but these are just some tools that you might be able to use to create that unlimited abundance you want in your life. Here's one last thing I will say. The energies of the planet have changed. The energies will serve you. But a lot of people think they need tons of rituals to attract. Like, people think, I need to do a vision board every day, and I need to, do 2,000 mantras to, on abundance. It's really the trick. If you want abundance, you allow abundance. That's all you do. I allow. And you forget about it. And if you are truly in a state of I allow, the universe will give you everything you need. And that seems like that's too easy, but that's the way the universe and spiritual law works. Try it out. become more abundant. Now to the Four of Cups, another one of my favorite cards, luxury. And if you look at my gentleman, who reminds me very much of me, with blue black hair, in his beautiful Victorian clothes, sitting in his favorite armchair by the fire, surrounded by his art, his luxury, his favorite sherry, and just being, but allowing all of the things that give him creature comfort, so to speak. And this is different for different people. The idea of the Four of Cups is living luxuriously and creating a safe, secure, and comfortable living environment that you enjoy, and the good things of life, and sharing deeply with yourself and with others. It's a self-love. It's interesting that you will attract by your consciousness the environment you live in. It was very interesting that when I first moved with my partner at the time to where I live now, I had a lot of fear issues at that time. I was in lack consciousness. I was fearful we wouldn't be able to pay our bills, and things like that. And my partner was not always responsible with money either. And I got scared. And it's interesting, my fear created toxicity with neighbors. And when we first moved in, I had some crazy stuff. I had a neighbor for a while that lived below me where I was getting sick, and it turned out he had a crystal meth lab. And who would ever thought, because I live in a nice area, this wasn't like, I don't know, Compton or East LA or something. This was like a luxury apartment on the ocean. But I attracted that darkness to me. I had a neighbor once who was an alcoholic, and he left his door open, and there's a lot of filming in my area, and I live actually near where they filmed the TV show Dexter. So during the filming of the show, there were some, robbers and looky-loos, and I came home and my door was literally broken open, and they got my computer, and I went through a robbery and all this negative energy. Then I decided to raise my consciousness, and I worked with a gentleman who's one of my closest friends. His name is Joe Casey, who does soul clearing work, and he does house environment clearings. And it was amazing. That first I thought, oh, he lives in Oregon. This sounds like mumbo jumbo bullshit. And I just went with it because I was desperate. And it was amazing. Within 2 days after his energy clearing, the negative people moved out of the neighborhood. The new people that came in were a higher vibration, and things just settled. And then over the 20 years, I kept raising the consciousness myself of the area. And it was amazing what happened. It was like negative people two blocks over that are near the bars and were just kind of the druggy people, and the low lifes moved out, and the toxic places closed. And I live now near, like, oh my God, a block from me is a Tibetan monastery. My next door neighbor, who is one of my good friends now, is a teacher like me, and we have lots of things in common. It turns out that the person I attracted that lives also in the building here actually was a French professor with my uncle. It's just unbelievable, the connections of what I attracted to me. My holistic doctor, who is one of my lifelong best friends, lives in the area. And if I need, herbs from my doctor, I don't even need to go into the office. He's my neighbor. I just call him up, he brings them over, and I get a discount. And just all these things I manifest. I manifested, being able to press a button on my phone with local restaurants that are friends of mine, and food is delivered to me in 20 minutes. of any cuisine I want. I have a wonderful Persian restaurant. I really love falafels and vegan, Mediterranean kind of cuisine. I have gourmet pizza. I have a Thai restaurant. I have French. And I just press a button and everything's taken care of. I'm like, how many people have that? I have in my neighborhood too the ability to never have to really drive. I just go 3 blocks. I have all my shopping, everything I need. I don't have to get on freeways. When I do want to get out, the ocean's right near me. I have places to eat. I have fabulous coffee houses around the corner. And yeah, every place might have a little aggravation. Like where I live, parking can be not perfect, but it's about how you rephrase it. So like when I come home, I'm like, there's always going to be a parking place in front of my home. And because I think that, guess what usually happens? I think in the 20 years I've lived here, I only had to once or twice park a couple of blocks away. That just manifests for me because it's in my consciousness. Um, During COVID, I used that time to bring luxury into my house. And one thing I wanted was custom Victorian leather sofas, and I wanted embossed leather. And there's very few companies that do that anymore. And I manifest a company that created exactly what I wanted and delivered my sofa and my recliners and everything to my home and took out the old furniture for me, and it was just easy breezy. And I manifested that. One time I remember I had an evening where I was just visualizing this. I like Tiffany lamps. And I was just visualizing this unusual Tiffany lamp that I go, gosh, I wish I could find a sapphire blue Tiffany lamp that would look nice against my carpet, but I want it to have, burnt orange poppies because my curtains are orange and I like autumn tones. And I said, that's an unusual combination. And the very next day, I'm at an antique shop and find the exact thing I was dreaming of. This is how powerful our emotions with our mind can be together. And you can attract luxury to you. And if you don't have a lot of money right now, it could be the simple thing of just bringing life into your home and clearing out clutter. One of the greatest things you can do is start by clearing out what you don't need. And you might think, well, I want to bring things in. But when you clear things out, you create a more luxurious space to be able to move around in, and then maybe bring in some plants or some colors that you like, and start small and then watch your environment transform. I've seen people that here in where I live or in Huntington Beach, where I go, their apartment doesn't look that fabulous from the outside. Then I go in, I'm like, oh my God, this place is amazing what they've done. I love people that had creativity and themes. I am a Harry Potter nerd, and my neighbor's a Harry Potter nerd. One thing we did, which I find just laughable but funny, is my doormat is Ravenclaw, and her doormat is Hufflepuff, and the doormat to our balcony is Slytherin. And we have this sort of little like Harry Potter land kind of fantasy thing on the upper floor of where I live, and it's kind of silly, but it's quirky and fun, and we laugh about it. And people come to our house like, oh my God, I can't wait. I'd love to go to your place because it's like, entering Hogwarts or whatever, and that's just a quirk, and it's fun. I go over to, one of my friend's house, and her place is super luxurious, but very different. Her house is like stepping into a medieval castle, and she's got tapestries and interesting things. I go to another friend's house, and it's all like stepping into 1950s George Jetson space age, and with a tiki bar and all this kind of interesting fun stuff. And this is where we're creative people, and our emotions can feed what we're attracted to. Obviously, my aesthetic because you can see my cards, but that's who I am. And you can create what you want to be and create it luxurious. You deserve it. And tell yourself that every day. I deserve luxury. Now to the Five of Cups. disappointment. And sometimes in our life, we have bad experiences. We have things that don't work out. But it's how we respond to that that we can grow and become more spiritually aware and more spiritually evolved through our disappointments. And this is a hard life lesson. This has been a life lesson of mine. One was the biggest trauma of my life was losing my partner. That was my soulmate when I was very young. We were together 10 years, but I lost him at 25, which is very young. And I go, why me? And why did this have to happen? And everybody else gets to have long marriages and I'm alone or whatever. And I went through this victimhood for a long period of time until I healed it up. I know people that have gone through devastation and then use that to turn it around to something amazing. One of the best things that happened to me was actually, believe it or not, going bankrupt. That happened to me in 2008. It was the year I broke up with my partner. It was the year I stopped teaching university and I said, I need to get out of this. And it was so scary. I had very little. I was starting over. I was almost homeless. I made some bad decisions, but then I eventually turned things around and created my own business and created abundance and created exactly what I want. And so the catalyst, I would never have done that. If things were just sort of like, oh, I can handle it, it's okay, I probably would have stayed at the university and just been, kind of had a so-so existence instead of really creating what I wanted. So sometimes that's the way the universe works. I have a cousin I'm very close to, and he had a horrible experience. He moved to Colorado for his work, and there was there was a fire in his building. He had to literally jump out of a window to save his life, and everything was lost in the fire, and he had to start over. And he goes, you know what? This is the universe kind of saying that I'm not supposed to be here, and I don't really want to be here. And now he's moving back to Washington, where he's so much happier. He's with his children, his family, and it was sort of like the catalyst. I remember the Laguna Beach fires, and I remember people losing their homes and just this devastation, like, oh my God, could anything be any worse? And then they were able to manifest a new place that was better, or they moved to a different state and met their partner, or so sometimes in disappointment we don't know what's going to come out of that's positive. I remember how devastated I was when I broke up with my second husband. I knew I needed to. He was a good person, but we just had differences of how we chose to live our life and communication and things. And we broke up on my birthday. I'll never forget that. And right before, which is the day before Valentine's Day. I mean, how sad is that, right? So I remember going through a week of just almost wanting to die. That's how I felt. And just like I failed at my marriage, and I couldn't get out of bed, and I was contemplating suicide. And I remember I had a minister at the time, a good friend of mine, and she pulled me aside and she said, Jim, if you want the right relationship, go buy the wedding ring. Go write down exactly what you want. And it was so fascinating what I did, because I remember my partner of my second husband was blonde. I said, okay, now I want dark hair. I want an artist. I want to meet someone that lives by the beach. And it was literally a week and a half after that I met my next partner. And it was exactly what I was trying to manifest. And I pulled that to me. Now, that partner in the long run was not my soulmate, but that partner was a karmic relationship that I needed to bring me to my spiritual truth. So I can bless it. And I feel that, we had a rocky relationship of a lot of trauma, but, now he is with his divine partner. He got remarried. And even though I'm not married, I'm living the best life I've ever had. So everything worked out, you see. But in that moment, you might not think it is going to work out. So if you look at this man on my card of disappointment, His house is burned down. He's just walking through the rubble of disappointment. Like, this was supposed to be my dream place, and now what do I do? And we all have that. We have things that happen. We have unexpected deaths of people we love. I remember during COVID the shock of one of my friends who is one of the greatest jazz pianists in the world. I mean, he was Chet Baker's pianist and was never ill, super healthy, and engaged to get married. And then he got the COVID vaccination and died. And I'm like, what the fuck? I remember just thinking, oh my God, and when that happened, I was noticing how I was relating to death, and because I've been through so much death, I handled it very maturely. And yes, I did grieve, but I didn't go into any depression and so forth. I go, wow, I've really evolved. I didn't realize that. Same when my dad passed away. Yes, I was sad, of course, but I wasn't like, so sad I couldn't get out of bed. It was his time. I allowed for him. It was his time to transition. And I think that, again, what you choose to do with disappointment and how you reframe can change your life. Now to the Five of Cups, disappointment. And sometimes in our life, we have bad experiences. We have things that don't work out. But it's how we respond to that we can grow and become more spiritually aware and more spiritually evolved through our disappointments. And this is a hard life lesson. This has been a life lesson of mine. One was the biggest trauma of my life was losing my partner. That was my soulmate when I was very young. We were together 10 years, but I lost him at 25, which is very young. And I go, why me? And why did this have to happen? And everybody else gets to have long marriages, and I'm alone or whatever. And I went through this victimhood for a long period of time until I healed it up. I know people that have gone through devastation and then use that to turn it around to something amazing. One of the best things that happened to me was actually, believe it or not, going bankrupt. That happened to me in 2008. It was the year I broke up with my partner. It was the year I stopped teaching university, and I said, I need to get out of this. And it was so scary. I had very little. I was starting over. I was almost homeless. I made some bad decisions, but then I eventually turned things around and created my own business and created abundance and created exactly what I want. And so the catalyst, I would never have done that. If things were just sort of like, oh, I can handle it, it's okay, I probably would have stayed at the university and just been, kind of had a so-so existence instead of really creating what I wanted. So sometimes that's the way the universe works. I have a cousin I'm very close to, and he had a horrible experience. He moved to Colorado for his work, and there was there was a fire in his building. He had to literally jump out of a window to save his life, and everything was lost in the fire, and he had to start over. And he goes, you know what? This is the universe kind of saying that I'm not supposed to be here, and I don't really want to be here. And now he's moving back to Washington, where he's so much happier. He's with his children, his family, and it was sort of like the catalyst. I remember the Laguna Beach fires, and I remember people losing their homes and just this devastation, like, oh my God, could anything be any worse? And then they were able to manifest a new place that was better, or they moved to a different state and met their partner, or so sometimes in disappointment we don't know what's going to come out of that that's positive. I remember how devastated I was when I broke up with my second husband. I knew I needed to. He was a good person, but we just had differences of how we chose to live our life and communication and things. And we broke up on my birthday. I'll never forget that. And right before, which is the day before Valentine's Day. I mean, how sad is that, right? So I remember going through a week of just almost wanting to die. That's how I felt. And just like I failed at my marriage and I couldn't get out of bed and I was contemplating suicide. And I remember I had a minister at the time, a good friend of mine, and she pulled me aside and she said, Jim, if you want the right relationship, go buy the wedding ring. Go write down exactly what you want. And it was so fascinating what I did because I remember my partner of my second husband was blonde. I said, okay, now I want dark hair. I want an artist. I want to meet someone that lives by the beach. And it was literally a week and a half after that I met my next partner. And it was exactly what I was trying to manifest. And I pulled that to me. Now, that partner in the long run was not my soulmate, but that partner was a karmic relationship that I needed to bring me to my spiritual truth. So I can bless it. And I feel that, we had a rocky relationship of a lot of trauma, but, now he is with his divine partner. He got remarried. And even though I'm not married, I'm living the best life I've ever had. So everything worked out, you see. But in that moment, you might not think it is going to work out. So if you look at this man on my card of disappointment, his house is burned down. He's just walking through the rubble of disappointment. Like, this was supposed to be my dream place. And now what do I do? And we all have that. We have things that happen. We have unexpected deaths of people we love. I remember during COVID, the shock of one of my friends who is one of the greatest jazz pianists in the world. I mean, he was Chet Baker's pianist and was never ill, super healthy and engaged to get married. And then he got the COVID vaccination and died. And I'm like, what the fuck? I remember just thinking, oh my God, and when that happened, I was noticing how I was relating to death, and because I've been through so much death, I handled it very maturely. And yes, I did grieve, but I didn't go into any depression and so forth. I go, wow, I've really evolved. I didn't realize that. Same when my dad passed away. Yes, I was sad, of course, but I wasn't like, so sad I couldn't get out of bed. It was his time. I allowed for him. It was his time to transition, And I think that, again, what you choose to do with disappointment and how you reframe can change your life. A problem of the modern world is the Seven of Cups debauchery. And if you look at my card, we have this guy who doesn't want to face his emotions, and he is using every vice imaginable of overindulgence to numb himself down. He is smoking opium, he has been drinking tons of alcohol, absinthe, he's shooting up drugs, he's used sex, he's used anything he can to mask over what he's feeling. And how many people in the modern world do this? This is an epidemic of the times we live in. The Seven of Cups, debauchery. It represents being in depression, but making your depression worse through your bad habits, bad behavior, and addictions. And when you pull this card, it's about releasing these patterns of addiction and bad habits and to stop overindulging, to come back into balance and to face the underlying emotions you're not dealing with. So what are some forms of addictions in modern society? Obviously, smoking, which I think is the most disgusting thing on the planet. I hate that. It could also be masking over things with drugs. How many people nowadays are taking medications for every imaginable thing. It's like, I mean, I knew a 13-year-old. I had a student once that was on over 10 different medications for, I have attention deficit disorder and allergies and asthma. And instead of getting to the root of the patterns that are causing that, they're just masking everything over with drugs. So drug use, it could be prescription drugs or recreational drugs. Marijuana, how many people are just like, I just need a hit, or I just need a toke to get by. How many people use sugar as a medication? They're just eating sugary foods all day long. How many people are addicted to fast food, or just emotionally eating, sitting in front of the Netflix and eating a tub of ice cream or a tub of pizza? How many people are using alcohol this is amazing to me. I know people that will waste. They go out every night after work and have 2 or 3 cocktails with a bar tab of over $60 to $100 almost every night, just wasting their money on alcohol, which then leads to I know someone has GI distress, their kidneys gave out, fucking up their bodies because they don't want to deal with the underlying emotions. Here's another one, especially big in the gay community, is addiction to porn. I know people that they're just lonely or not dealing with their emotions, and they spend like hours online just looking at porn, wasting their life away, and not really using that time to develop deep, true relationships. How many people are addicted to spending? How many people are in debt because, they're trying to keep up appearances and they spend above their means on their clothes and shopping, and they're shopaholics? How many people are addicted to video gaming? Now, playing a video game is great. I love video games. But how many people waste 8 hours of their day on video games instead of really dealing with their life? These are vices. What are other vices? There's just hundreds of these. Another could be addicted to just complaining, and all they need to, and they have to defend their victimhood and let everybody know how miserable they are. That's debauchery. How many people have to do the opposite and show how superior they are to others? How many people have to use their religion as, I'm better than you because I'm more self-righteous, or I'm a better Christian than you, or I'm a better Buddhist than you, or whatever? That's a form of debauchery. And so what this is about is, if you ever get this card, it's about really examining what patterns are you doing that are bad habits that is causing your life to become out of balance, and what is the underlying thing you're not dealing with. One disorder which I never fully understood, but I've known some people that I love very deeply that I just was blown away by their hoarding and their hoarder. And I know it's a mental disease, is hoarding, but there's also patterns that lead to that. And I had 2 friends that chose to live in the most disgusting squalor I've ever seen and chaos. And I'm like, why would you not love yourself to get out of that? And I remember one of my friends whose hoarding house was so crazy, and I go in there and I say, you have 30 boxes of Starbucks iced coffee, and you're never going to drink this. It's been sitting here for 6 years. Just get rid of it and throw it in the trash. Like, I need it. It's like, and just defending their need for that. And it's just crazy. I remember going to a friend's house, and just on the surface, the person looked so handsome and put together. Then I got to the house, and I was like, oh my gosh, there is, pizza boxes on the floor from months before, and you're crawling over the squalor and crawling over books and just trying. It's just chaos, and that's a form of debauchery. So what are you addicted to? and really ask yourself if there's any habits in your life that you can change to bring you closer to understanding your true emotions and creating a better life for yourself. Another sad tragedy of the modern world I see is the Eight of Cups, indolence. And what that means, the word indolence, is you are overextended emotionally, you're physically drained, you're exhausted, and you're depleted. And you've done it to yourself. You're not setting appropriate boundaries, you're not setting limits on what you can handle, you're overextended. These are usually the workaholics. These are usually the people that can't sit still and they're running themselves ragged. And this means that when you pull this card, it's time to cut your work hours. It's time to hibernate and heal your body, mind, and spirit and your emotions. And it's finding and regaining balance in your life. And usually, people that are in indolence have lots of toxic people that drain their energies. So if you look at my woman, she's almost looks like a consumptive, just exhausted. She can barely even move off the chair, and she's in her nightgown, and she's just, I can't even go anywhere. And she has allowed herself to be the victim of vampires. And when I say that, I mean, emotional vampires, people that take, drain energies, and, she's become a victim of that. It's really sad. I have a friend I really care about who works 4 jobs, is never available, like work till he's got pneumonia, he's got illness, and he still chooses that, and he says there's no way out of it. And yet he has a beautiful home, he has things he could change or opportunities that he just refuses to. So he's always depleted, he's always sick, he's always exhausted, he attracts negativity. He's in a car accident. His house burns down. I mean, these are things that actually happen. Hurricane hits and there's a problem, and just one thing after the other. And people that are in indolence are running from their emotions. They don't want to face it, so they keep themselves busy to not have to deal with them. This is also the people that are constantly traveling and can't sit still. It's great to take a trip. I dated this one gentleman who, on the surface seemed fantastic, world traveled, beautiful home in San Clemente, good looking, gorgeous, and he could not sit still. It was like, okay, I'm going to go to Vegas, and like he's in Vegas for 2 days, and like now I'm flying to Switzerland, and now I'm here, and now I'm there. And it was always this running around and just not enjoying being. And what I realized is his partner, previous to me dating him, had died, and he was mourning, and he was running from his feelings of loss. And I'm not putting him down in that, I dealt with my loss with alcoholism and things I did that were, we all deal with things, but it's not the best way to deal with things. So if you're running from your problems and you're overextended, if you can't sleep at night, if you always feel like you don't have time, you're in the state of indolence, and it means you need to hibernate and take time for yourself. I realized something fascinating to me during the COVID, and I realized the people that were able to go inward, like myself during COVID when we were all shut in, and were perfectly peaceful, and people that were climbing the walls and lashing out and creating problems and getting worried and making themselves sick, because it was the first time probably in their whole life they were forced to hibernate. And that's what the COVID energy was about on the planet. There's an energetics of people having to go inward and face themselves. And the consciousness after the 2 years of COVID was raised on the planet. And not everybody is in the greatest spiritual awareness, but a lot of people evolved. And we evolved in mankind into the start of the age of Aquarius, so to speak, And so, it's interesting what happens to people when they're forced to hibernate and look at themselves and be alone. And that's what this woman is being forced to do. She finally is so sick that she can't move, and she's now forced to stay in bed and be with her thoughts and see what created the state of illness and depletion. And maybe she will learn from that and make changes to grow and to heal and to replenish, and maybe she will not. And that's a choice that we're all given. So choose wisely. Now to a happier card, the Nine of Cups. Happiness. And with happiness, it's just feeling emotionally happy and fulfilled. And you're able to just find joy in the small things in life. It's almost like a childlike innocence. If you look at my card, we have the three cute little happy girls that remind me of my sisters. And they're just out having fun, playing in their little kingdom. And you see the Disneyland sort of castle in the background in the enchanted garden. And they're just giggling and being together. And how in adult life, how many times do we allow ourselves to be like a little child? How many times do we allow ourselves to be silly and to just relive our childhood fantasies and things that were fun? For me, I'm very connected to being a child, and I have that silly side of myself. One thing is, which is very interesting, is my partner Bill and I were we met at Disneyland, and one thing that was so interesting is we both loved Alice in Wonderland, and so I, me with my tea too. I've mentioned my tea parties, and I just started collecting pink and purple, crazy looking, Disney Cheshire cats and things like that. And sometimes I'm just super silly, and I will have a tea party with my Cheshire cat, and and my eccentric characters. Sometimes I'm silly, with my Harry Potter, and I'll get together with my neighbor who's also a Harry Potter freak, and we'll get our wands out, and I'll be, prancing around with my Ravenclaw stuff, and, my head wig, and my, Harry Potter things. And then, sometimes I love to be like a little child and be a pirate and just be silly and be adventurous. And one show I loved as a kid was H.R. Puff and stuff, and I remember just sitting and singing the silly songs from H.R. Puff and stuff, and just laughing with friends and doing stuff like that. And, what are the creature comforts that remind us of childhood? Like, I loved Knott's Berry Farm as a kid, and so just indulging in eating some boysenberry pie connects me to a happy place. Or, I'm not really a Christmas person, but I've always loved gingerbread. And maybe at Christmas it's sitting with a cup of chai tea and some gingerbread and curling up under the blanket and watching The Grinch, and just being a little bit childlike. So we can find emotional balance sometimes from becoming innocent, or looking to the things that gave us the simple joys of childhood. I was talking to a friend the other day, my close friend, about some things of my past, and I was talking about key lime pie, which is something from my childhood, and just my earliest memory of my grandfather was taking me out in this beautiful tropical paradise of Key West for key lime ice cream. And every time now that I taste key lime, I just remember how happy I was in Key West as a child. Some people have, again, maybe they love Halloween, and like, I'm a pumpkin spice person. Every time Halloween comes around, which is my favorite holiday, I'm like, yay, pumpkin spice time, and I'm just like, enthusiastic for pumpkin spice way back in August, like, oh God, if we could just get through summer and I could start wearing my goth clothes and, put out pumpkins and carve jack-o'-lanterns and have pumpkin spice, I'm going to be happy. And for other, people that get super excited about Christmas, and they're already in August planning their Christmas stuff. And some people are super into Valentine's Day and being a romantic, and we can just find joy from these kind of things. And so a great thing to do is to sit with a journal and just write down favorite things and memories from your childhood, and honoring your inner child. Okay, we all have one, and what is little Jimmy like? And by doing that, we sometimes are able to forgive the things that happened to us in our childhood that were traumatic. We start to focus on the positive things and not the negative things. One of my favorite memories makes me laugh hysterically because my dad worked really hard and he was an amazing man, and he needed a cocktail after, literally a family of 8 and working at McDonnell Douglas. And he used to pick me up at the doctor's office for, when I had to get allergy shots. And then he would feel sad because I would be in pain from the allergy shots. My arms would be all welted up and I feel like crap. And so he would want to get a cocktail. So we would go to this place by our house. It was called Love's. Interestingly enough, Love's is that kind of funny, I think the cups and the love. And it was a barbecue pit that had a bar, and the bar was super dark and cool. To me, it reminded me of pirates. It had this dark cognac leather couch and coat of arms and with swords on the wall, and it had a piano. And my dad would treat me like a grown up and say, "Hey, Jimmy, I'm going to get you a cocktail," because Daddy's got a cocktail, and he would get a martini. His drink was a vodka martini up with a twist and an olive, and I would get a Roy Rogers, which was Coke and grenadine and a cherry or whatever. And I think I was super cool, like I'm a big boy. I get my cocktail, and this is so funny. I would sit at the piano and play through pop songs, and people would give me money, and I'm like, what? Oh my god, I just got $5 for just having fun and playing a song. And that was because I was living my passion. And it's interesting, as 5 years old, I was being trained to be, a lounge lizard, cocktail pianist, but it was so interesting. And I remember, of course, like some days, getting $20. This was the early 70s too, like 1975, 1976, and making $20, $30 in tips. And then the other thing is the bar nuts. Instead of having that, they had those little gold cheese fishy crackers, whatever they call it, goldfishes. And I would just be like, just give me a bowl of goldfishes and I'm happy. And I would devour like this whole giant bowl of goldfishes and maybe two, Shirley Temples or a Roy Rogers, and think I was super cool. And I know it's a quirky memory, but it's just like now every time I see goldfishes, I just laugh. And I'm like a kid, and it brings back that memory. And it brings back how that memory is also part of my life, where I went on to perform as a jazz pianist all over the Southland. I played at the Biltmore in Santa Barbara, and the Bonaventure in LA, and the Queen Mary here in Long Beach, and all these places, and recorded albums. And that would have never happened of who I am if I didn't have that childhood memory of my dad taking me into this bar. It's kind of, it's kind of really interesting. And so that's a interesting memory. And one last memory is people that live in California might remember the turn of the century ice cream parlor called Farrell's. And we were fortunate to have Farrell's right down the street from us. So after piano recitals, or maybe on a Sunday after church, we go for ice cream sundaes, and I would indulge in my favorite, which was always boysenberry. So I was kind of unusual that way. I would have a boysenberry sundae, and they had a player piano, and the player piano played ragtime rolls, and I would be fascinated by that, and I would listen to the ragtime rolls and say, someday I'm going to be able to do that. And by the time I was 9, I could play every Scott Joplin rag, and by the time I was 15, I was playing ragtime at Disneyland. So do you see how your happiness and things that you choose might lead to something else in your life that opens up another happiness, and it just, happiness expands on itself. So kind of examine things that make you happy in your life over the next week. And finally, the Ten of Cups. Satiety. And some people might not have ever heard that word. What does satiety mean? And it means the ability to share your passion and your vitality by radiating your authentic self. And this is what we strive for. To truly be happy in life, you have to be you, not what other people want you to be. And that was one of my greatest life lessons, because I came from a very demanding family that wanted me to be a certain way, and I wasn't going to be that way. And I had to learn to be okay with that. And so when you are your true self, you're able to share authentically with others. So there's an enthusiasm for life and feeling peaceful and content in all areas of your life. Living in your truth is another theme of this card. So if you look at my card, we see these ladies doing what I love to do, is they're having a tea party, and they're indulging in all their favorite things. They're in a garden of abundance. They're dressed beautifully. They're in radiant health. And they're sharing. They're sitting and acknowledging each other's truth and really sharing intimately. That's why you will see this connection with me of tea and tarot. I feel that British tea taking is a great way to develop intimacy with someone. It's one of my favorite things to do, and some of my favorite times in life have just been sharing a cup of tea and just sharing and being. And that's what these beautiful ladies are doing. They're indulging in their favorite flavors of macarons, and they're having their tea and their little desserts, and they're in the garden, and they're talking about their lives. And that, to me, is what satiety is about. What does satiety mean to you? When are you truly feel alive in your truth? I know in the gay community, sometimes we're shunned by family and church and things like that. And what I love about the gay community is this ability to come together and to celebrate life. And so maybe you feel alive on the dance floor. That's something I always loved. I just remember just being around just beautiful people and dancing, especially back in the 80s and 90s. That was something that just made me feel connected and in my truth. And dance is a form of freedom, and so maybe it's that for you. For others, again, as an artist, I feel a deep connection playing chamber music and getting into deep feeling with great artists, or accompanying a great singer. Some of my best times in my life were in my college years, and just accompanying the most amazing singers and just feeling so deeply the music almost as one. And that's a deep connection. Being on stage in a play with a cast and working, I find that fascinating and beautiful. For me, it's sharing art. Getting together on the phone with other authors. One of my great friends is a very famous biographer. He wrote George Michael's bio, Chet Baker's bio, Lena Horne's bio. Oh my gosh, he's a brilliant man. And his name is also James, and I'm James West on the West Coast, and he's James East, and we kind of joke about that. And we'll just get on the phone and just talk intellectually about our truths, about like what we're working on, and just being creative together. And I just enjoy those kind of conversations with my amazing friends like that. And so that is true satiety, and I hope you can develop that in your life. When you share from your truth, you will find true happiness. And that takes us through the 1 to the 10 of Cups.